Let's play a game. Let's play a lightning round game. I'm going to be the bad guy, which I'm sure half the room would agree with anyway. And I want to get away with as much bad things as possible, ideally to enrich myself and advance my interest, even if that means putting my interests ahead of the American people.
Right off the bat, AOC makes me want to listen. Games are fun. And corrupt acts are attention-grabbing. When was the last time a newspaper headline blared with praise for integrity? And talking about the American people suggests that she cares for them. When people think you care about them, they are more likely to care about what you say. It also helps that politicians rarely say what she says, especially at a hearing of the US House of Representatives.
And by the way, I have enlisted all of you as my co-conspirators. So you're going to help me legally get away with all of this. So, Mrs. Hobart Flynn, I want to run. If I want to run a campaign that is entirely funded by corporate political action committees, is there anything that legally prevents me from doing that?
No.
AOC immediately exposes a potential flaw. A candidate's money can come entirely from businesses. She uses a hypothetical scenario. Both hypothetical and actual scenarios have their advantages. The big advantage of going hypothetical is that you define the facts, and people cannot dispute them. AOC asks a question instead of making a speech. This creates the impression that multiple people are saying the same thing. It also helps that the answerer was a non-partisan, who devoted her life to campaign finance reform.
So there's nothing stopping me from being entirely funded by corporate PACs, say from the fossil fuel industry, the healthcare industry, big pharma. I'm entirely 100% lobbyist PAC funded.
AOC rephrases what she said and gives concrete examples. This helps things sink into listeners' brains and makes the threat sound more believable.
Okay, so let's say I'm a really, really bad guy, and let's say I have some skeletons in my closet that I need to cover up so that I can get elected. Mr. Smith, is it true that you wrote this article, this opinion piece for the Washington Post entitled, "These payments to women were unseemly, that doesn't mean they were illegal"?
Well, I can't see the piece, but I wrote a piece under that headline in the Post, so I assume that's right.
Okay, great.
AOC now highlights an actual problem. She skillfully combines both hypothetical and actual cases. Because every tool has its strengths and weaknesses, she gets the best of both worlds.
So, green light for hush money. I can do all sorts of terrible things. It's totally legal right now for me to pay people off. And that is considered speech. That money is considered speech.
AOC makes the headline simpler and catchy. Green light for hush money. So it's easier to understand and easier to remember. She reinforces it by highlighting an absurdity. Hush money is free speech.
So I use my special interest dark money funded campaign to pay off folks that I need to pay off and get elected. So now I'm elected, now I'm in, I've got the power to draft, lobby, and shape the laws that govern the United States of America. Fabulous. Now, is there any hard limit that I have, perhaps Mrs. Hobart Flynn, is there any hard limit that I have in terms of what legislation I'm allowed to touch? Are there any limits on the laws that I can write or influence, especially if I'm based on the special interest funds that I accepted to finance my campaign and get me elected in the first place?
There's no limit.
AOC moves closer and closer to what she wants to prove: actual harm to the American people. She not only plays a game, she tells a story. Because the story gets worse and worse, I'm eager to find out what happens next. How bad can it get? AOC is following the playbook of David Phillips, who wrote How to Avoid Death by PowerPoint.
You build suspense, you launch a cliffhanger, and the most beautiful thing of all is that all storytelling is per definition dopamine creating, because it's always something that we're waiting and expecting.
So there's none. So I can be totally funded by oil and gas. I can be totally funded by Big Pharma, come in, write Big Pharma laws, and there's no limits to that whatsoever.
That's right.
Okay, so awesome. Now, Mr. Mirabani, the last thing I want to do is get rich with as little work possible. That's really what I'm trying to do as the bad guy, right? So is there anything preventing me from holding stocks, say, in an oil or gas company, and then writing laws to deregulate that industry and cause, that could potentially cause the stock value to soar and accrue a lot of money in that time?
You could do that.
This is the first of AOC's 2 key points. Why didn't she start with this? She wanted to take you on the same emotional journey as her. If she had started off with this point, you wouldn't feel the same tension and emotional investment. By starting with the campaign process, AOC guides her audience through a process of understanding and realization. Her audience can now grasp the significance of her key points, which makes her message more effective and resonant. Does AOC deserve her reputation for asking tough questions? To fully appreciate how good AOC's questions are, let's compare them to what her colleague asked a few minutes before she started her questions.
Mr. Schaub, just briefly, could you elaborate on on the positive aspects of making your former position directly be able to respond to report to Congress, and some trouble we have had with OGE getting written responses that both the Republicans and Democrats have been frustrated by?
This question is much more difficult to understand. It also appears to be much less fundamental than AOC's questions. So it's normal that AOC gets more publicity than many other Congress people. Back to AOC's questioning.
Is it possible that any elements of this story apply to our current government and our current public servants right now?
Yes.
Yes.
This is like icing on the cake. AOC again bridges the hypothetical with the actual. There are many Congress people and many public servants, and so many industries want to influence the government. So a problem likely exists. Even if it doesn't, there will be problems in the future.
So we have a system that is fundamentally broken. We have these influences existing in this body, which means that these influences are here in this committee shaping the questions that are being asked of you all right now. Would you say that that's correct,
Yes.
Mr. Marabani or Mr. Schaub?
Yes.
All right, so one last thing, Mr. Schaub. In relation to congressional oversight that we have, the limits that are placed on me as a congresswoman, compared to the executive branch and compared to, say, the President of the United States, would you say that Congress has the same sort of standard of accountability? Is there more teeth in that regulation in Congress on the president, or would you say it's about even, or more so on the federal?
In terms of laws that apply to the president, yeah, there's just almost no laws at all that apply to the president.
So I'm being held, and every person in this body is being held to a higher ethical standard than the President of the United States.
That's right, because there are some ethics committee rules that apply to you.
And it's already super legal, as we've seen, for me to be a pretty bad guy. So it's even easier for the President of the United States to be one, I would assume.
That's right.
Thank you very much.
AOC triggers a primeval instinct in our brain. Fairness. Why is there a double standard? How can the president be held to a lower standard than Congress people? Double standards are so easy to understand. Even 19-month-old babies can recognize them. It also helps that the subject of her question is the most powerful person in the country. The biggest part of the problem, it seems, is with the highest office in the land. AOC started with art and ended with science. She shows that Steve Jobs was right all along.
Technology alone is not enough. That it's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the result that makes our hearts sing.
So here's an A+ with lots of bonus points for AOC. If you enjoyed this video, do check out my public speaking videos. Thanks for watching.